Maybe you can tell us a bit what motivated you to take our class.
For me, there were two things I'd say. One was that it was not from computer science, so I could kind of broaden my horizon, interact with some other fields of study. And the other thing was the general sustainability aspect that I found interesting, and that you use less resources in construction.
Great.
And for me, since I just finished my bachelor thesis on disassembly, like, and thinking about what is in the existing buildings in Zurich and detecting the materials, it was very important to me. I also wanted to know more about digital tools for the building industry, because usually it's not so digitalized. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I come obviously from an architectural background, so getting the opportunity of building something with my own hands was a great motivation for me to join the course, and also trying to link that with what we can do in terms of fostering a circular mindset in architecture, which I think is a bit missing currently.
For me, well, it's a very special course, and ETH doesn't offer that many courses that special, like having the different disciplines, also having a wide range of cool lectures, and then in the end also like this hands-on part, like not only planning but also then really in the end getting active. Every lecture we got like insight into a different technology, ranging from blockchain, human robot, collaboration.
I think for me the coolest part was the exercise sessions, or get hands-on experience in the technology that was being introduced. Okay, it's not just theoretical work, but this is actually something that we as designers and as engineers we can get trained on how to use it in our daily practice.
Has there been another example of courses where you meet different students of different departments, and how was that experience for you to sit in a classroom with students of other classes of other departments and also on the construction side?
There was a management course, and then there were some huge courses that multiple departments take, but I never had this close interaction, and also never had the case where people from different departments brought their expertise.
I had a similar experience with the ATH week, where we have 200 students from all the departments and every single level from the bachelor to the PhD. But there is like one general topic, and it was in our case that we had expertise but from different positions, and we could all contribute in different ways.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can you give some concrete examples of how you did that in this class?
Yeah, I can think back to the database that we did, where the task was that some other students had done an inventory of the materials that were there, and we were to make it into a database. Of course, computer science students knew very well about the different ways to just make any database, but then the civil engineers and architects came in and kind of knew good ways to somehow group materials and describe them, and what's sort of standard names for something.
As a non-architect, to have a lot to do with the architects and see how they, like, their creativity comes in. Architects and engineers being more close to each other and understand the different ways of thinking.
Yeah, that makes me really happy to hear that, because that's exactly what we were trying, is to bring architects and engineers and other disciplines closer to each other, so that we work together, and when we work together we achieve more instead of working against each other, which is often also the case.
Yeah, it's my life now at MIPS.
Yeah, exactly.
So a master for integrated building systems, and is a interdisciplinary master at the architecture department is the guest department, but we're having courses from the Department of Civil but also from mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, and there is a collaboration also with the Energy Science Center, so yeah.
Quite interdisciplinary.
You, Claudia, within your studies there's already a very diverse amount of stakeholders, and maybe for you also, Yannick, within this course, not only did you work with students of different departments, but also there were 2 professors and then an architectural office and a contractor and engineers involved. And how was this experience for you, working in between this teaching and also practice and working with professionals in this context?
That was quite interesting to learn from the professionals about how, mostly on the construction side, about just how you would go about putting things together, things that just would of course be natural to any civil engineer or architect, but I never really thought about much because all I do is type a few.
Code, yeah.
Basically. But then one specific task of putting something together, I remember highlighted also kind of a downside of having all of these people together. I remember our session out in the yard about designing the joint, and I don't remember how many, but there were at least 4 professionals plus as many students and you, and I think you were there as well. It's a huge table designing a fairly simple joint. It took hours, I think, and went back and forth, and it's just wild. Everybody didn't like everybody else's thing. So there's value in getting people together from different disciplines, but there's also a too much, I would say.
Having all of you students come together into what you said is a fairly simple joint in the end, I think it's better than having a complicated joint that nobody talked about and that nobody learned from, right? So for me, it's actually an upside.
No, looking at it from that perspective, I see that too, because if you say at a normal construction site with profit in mind, I wouldn't have been at that table. I guess learning is inefficient, right? And that's good.
Okay, well, learning doesn't have to be efficient. I would
Like,
say.
what is efficiency?
Put it like that, yeah.
And I think it is efficient. Sometimes you spend more time on learning something, but it's more efficient because you will remember it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So, of course, it would have been faster to teach you the principles of circular economy in a PowerPoint presentation, but you probably would have forgotten after the exam.
I really enjoyed building something, being hands-on, working with this machinery that most of us did not touch ever in our life before. We were free to be creative and to adapt on spot and learn by doing.
How did you find this balance of traditional carpentry and actual labor, physical labor, versus these new emerging digital tools that are more and more in the focus of the construction industry?
I found the mix, to me, very appealing. I can put things together, I can build something physically, that's great. But then also to see kind of the status quo of the construction industry, which is even less digital than I would have ever thought, apparently. And then to see what's all possible and what's being thought up here. And I can think of when we were finishing the pavilion, we were putting these QR codes on there to get material passports linked to it. These sort of things seem to be quite a great leap forward, given the status quo.
There is the big challenge of seeing how this is going to translate once I will start working on a specific budget.
So what do you think your role could be then once you go in industry? What are you going to take from these learnings of our classrooms and to change the world?
So I'm learning right now a lot about simulations and computational design, and also I'm very interested in the whole topic of detecting what building materials and elements in a structure that we don't have a lot of information, like especially old buildings that don't have very digitalized plans and so on.
Nice. Yeah. What about you, Yannick? What are you gonna do to change the world?
Well, that's to be determined in which certain way, but I could
you were taking our course as a bachelor student.
Yes, I was taking as a bachelor student. I'm studying the master's only now, so there's still some thinking to be done, but I see very good options to advance circularity and also sustainability as a whole in the construction sector by basically just overall improving digitalization, because the overall problem, one important problem seems to be that many of these sustainability practices are very labor intensive, but many of these labor tasks seem to be ones that you can digitalize, at least in the future. And so if you could just do that, then it would already, in a capitalist system, make it a lot more viable to have these practices.
How is it for you not only to work with different students of different disciplines, but then also then the professionals of architects, engineers and contractors?
I think that was very helpful because, I mean, yes, of course you learn from the experts. They also learn maybe a little bit like also from the students, and
they learned a lot also. Yeah,
their ideas. And
Loukas, you were more in the group that did some digital fabrication. I know that was also a challenging task. Can you tell us a bit what you learned in your group?
Yes, so my group essentially was tasked with a quite challenging task of holding the trusses together. So we had to fabricate some sort of wooden joint. I think for me the most challenging part for this was to construct from materials that were reused, and essentially they were there for us, and we had to go there and figure out which was the right material for the job. And this is something that as designers and architects and engineers we are not really used to something like that. We just choose the correct material, let's say, and then we get and implement and do the job. But this was the backwards process. I truly believe that the limitations actually enhance creativity in a way rather than hinder it. I think sometimes when you have a completely black canvas, it's actually quite hard to start somewhere. On the contrary, where you have certain limitations that you need to adhere to, suddenly it becomes a much more enjoyable process of actually having to figure out what is essential in your design, figure out a way to think outside of the box and to actually innovate in a solution.
Well, we started the course with the talk from Julia Watson on local traditional ecological knowledge, because I wanted to make sure that you as students don't get lost in the possibilities of digitalization, but that you also think about what makes sense, and the purpose is doing something better for society and for the environment, right? And if the technology, whether it's digital or traditional or analog, if technology can help us, then let's use it.
Digitalization is, I think, is usually good, but it's not good just by itself. There has to be a reason for it. I'm always questioning whether digital is even necessary, because in some cases it might not at all be, or you can even just leave something away and not digitalize it at all. And
now I was thinking like of two examples. Like if we're talking about BIM, every involved party, every stakeholder knows in real time what's happening, and saving a lot of time and conversation, and realize the project as it was planned and then modified, and everybody's on board in the right time and then right amount of money, then this is also sustainable in the sense that we're saved.
By thinking about the connection, and that was what your group was doing with the digital fabrication, was connecting these materials to each other in a smart way. Are there other things other than materials that we need to connect in order to build in a more circular way?
Well, the most important thing is connect people. It would not have been possible unless all the people that came and talked to us, and each of them just gave a small input to something that amounted to a very significant project, right? It's because what we're talking about here is a fundamental paradigm shift, right? It's not something that is really easy or simple to make. So
what would you recommend to students? What advice would you have to students who are also interested in circular construction and similar projects?
Just do it. I think at the start it's hard because you don't know where to start. But I think as soon as you get like your materials and you know where they come from, you can get creative and save a lot of energy and resources. Yeah.
Just start, just do it.
Yes.